All right, guys. So our assignment was to do PLTW 125. Submission should have built this right here. Okay, if you didn't get it done, I'm going to walk you through. These are the steps we're going to follow. All right, if we follow those steps, we should end up with an object that looks like this. So to do that, first step is to sketch a 20 millimeter by 30 millimeter rectangle. Now, if you look on our front view, the 30 millimeters is vertical, so I'm going to do 20 in this direction. So the bottom will be 20, the side will be 30. All right, so create a sketch, select the front plane, and go ahead and go to the front view, make a rectangle. I'm going to start at the origin and go out. Now the bottom here, we said was going to be 20 millimeters. Now our OnShape is set up into inches, so I've got to type the millimeters so that it gets the correct units. Type that. The other side is 30 millimeters. Okay. Next step says to finish the sketch. Check mark. Now revolve. This isn't something that we've done yet, but if we go here, we've got extrude and there's revolve. So to do a revolve, we want to do 360 degrees around the 30 millimeter side. So over here, anytime I have these open, okay, in blue right here, it says face and sketch regions to revolve. Well, I want to revolve this whole rectangle. So I select it, face of sketch one. Now the axis, since it's in red, I still have to make that selection before it'll do the revolve. So click in blue, it says the 30 millimeter side, which is this height. And there we go. There's our revolve. I'm going to go back to isometric view. And so we've got our cylinder that we're working off of, this main shape right here. The next part is to sketch a 10 millimeter square centered on the top of the cylinder. Now, big thing is it says that it wants it centered, okay? And it's on the top of the cylinder. So two things we have to do. So I'm going to create another sketch on the top. Now, if I use this corner rectangle, that means I would be dragging here, dragging across, and I'm kind of guessing where the center was at, unless I do some other things to manipulate it. But if I hit the drop down arrow, we've got what's called a center point rectangle. All right, what that does is it allows me to click the center and then drag out so that the center is always placed, and then we can move this edge wherever we want. So I want to make sure I pick center point rectangle. And if I hold it over the center of my circle here, I get that constraint down there that is concentric, meaning that where my mouse is now is the center of that highlighted circle, which is what I want. So I click once, drag out. I don't care how long. So when I click a second time, I can fill in that box with 10 millimeters. Enter. Second box, 10 millimeters. Enter. And now I have a box that is centered on the top of the cylinder. Isometric view. Next step, extrude the square 15 millimeters to create an additive feature. So extrude that sketch, so make sure only that sketch is highlighted. All right, and it's an additive feature. So add is already selected because we built that square on the face. And we changed this to 15 millimeters. Finish the extrude. Here we go. Now, the next part says to add a 5 millimeter fillet to the edge between the rectangular prism and the cylinder. So where the prism we just made is in contact with the cylinder, we're going to do a 5 millimeter fillet. Now, a fillet is what creates this curve right here. So we're doing something to create this curve. So if I go through here, revolve, sweep, loft, thicken, fillet. All right, which makes sense because there's that curve we want to create. So I'm going to select it. The radius set to 5 millimeters. And now in blue, it wants us to select the entities to fillet. So right here, I've got that edge selected. All right, so when I click it, it's going to fill in the gap between the rectangular prism and the top of the cylinder. And I'm just going to select that side, hit my left arrow. Now I can see that side, right arrow. I can get that side. And I've created the fillet on all of those. It's at 5 millimeters. And I'm done. Go back to my isometric view. So the last spot is a chamfer. Now we get two measurements here. We've got a distance of 5 millimeters and a degree of 30. So we're going to do a chamfer. So the chamfer is this straight edge cut across the bottom. Now if you look here, it's a distance of 5 this way. Opens up 30 in this direction. So I'm going to click the front view again, and we're going to do that chamfer, just chopping off these bottom edges. So that was a fillet, and here's that straight edge chamfer. Now, when we select it, it's at equal distance right there. Well, if we look back, like we pointed out a second ago, we've got a distance and we've got a degree. So if I have my drop down, distance and angle allows me to type in a distance, which we want to be 5 millimeters, and a degree we're going to change to 30. All right. Well, in blue, it asks for entities to chamfer. So if I highlight just that bottom edge, there we have it. Now, remember, we wanted that 5 millimeters to be this edge. Possible when you selected it, your 5 millimeters ends up being this edge, but we can just click this arrow and it'll flip-flop which one is the distance and which one is the angle. We have our distance here and then our angle of 30. Okay, if you flip it, you've got your distance here and this is my 30-degree angle. So we want it in this orientation. There's our object. Finish our chamfer. And if we look, it's this same object here. I go to isometric, the same object there. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do is to create a drawing, all right, using one of your template that you created. All right. If we look back on Schoology, it says that using that template that you created is worth 30 points of the grade. All right, the next thing is use the dimension tool to recreate the image given in figure 1. So here I want to dimension that, all of these different parts. Come on. Okay. Doesn't look like it's going to load for me, but recreate this, use the dimension tool to get these sides. Now, all of these dimensions are millimeters. Yours will have converted to inches, which is okay. But just get those placed as many as you can. If you can't figure out how to do like this 30 degrees, don't worry about it. Just submit your screenshot of your drawing and have a good day.